The sun was shining on TPC River Highlands, and so was the spotlight. But not on Keegan Bradle. No, all eyes were locked on Tommy Fleetwood, the elegant Englishman chasing his elusive first PGA Tour title. The galleries were packed, the air was thick with anticipation, and golf's scriptwriters had seemingly already written the final act. This was supposed to be his day. Fleetwood had the swagger, he had the momentum, he had the support of nearly every commentator walking the ropes. Meanwhile, Keegan Bradle? Just another name on the board. An experienced player, sure, but not the storyline the world was tuned in for. He started the day a couple shots back, quietly lurking. Not exactly headline material. No one expected him to rewrite the ending. Bradley's too far behind, they said. Fleetwood's finally going to break through, they said. The Travelers is Fleetwood's to lose. And that's where things get interesting, because the Travelers Championship 2025 wasn't scripted like a feel-good Hollywood drama. It was written like a psychological thriller, full of twists, gut punches, and a lead character no one saw coming. This one's in the bag. Bold words, cursed words. Fleetwood wasn't just playing for a trophy, he was playing to silence a decade of questions. Meanwhile, Bradle had nothing to prove and everything to gain. Let's not forget the Travelers is Keegan Bradle's home turf. He grew up dreaming about this tournament, but still this wasn't his moment. Or so we thought. CT Insider and The Times ran pre-final round headlines that screamed confidence in Fleetwood. Poised, ready, and inevitable. That was the energy. That was the expectation. But here's the thing about expectations. They don't win you trophies. Pressure doesn't care about your press clippings. One bad swing, one missed putt, one overlooked underdog. The moment Fleetwood looked ahead, Bradle stayed present. And the calm before the chaos? It belonged to him. The storm hadn't started yet, but the clouds were already moving. If you blinked, you missed the warning, because what happened next wasn't luck, it was a shift. And that's where the story really begins. By the time the final 4 holes came into view at TPC River Highlands, the atmosphere had changed. The cheers felt tighter, the air just a little heavier. Tommy Fleetwood held a one-shot lead, and everything seemed to be tracking toward his long-awaited coronation. But golf doesn't hand out trophies early. It asks if you're willing to suffer first. That's where the unraveling began. Fleetwood approached the par 4 15th with the same fluid swing he's built his career on, but it wasn't sharp, it was soft. His iron drifted, landing him on the fringe. He two-putted for par. Routine, but it felt fragile. Then came the 16th. It was the moment things began to creak. A misread putt for birdie, a nervous glance at the leaderboard, and then Bradle creeps to within striking distance. Fleetwood wasn't losing his swing, he was losing his rhythm. And in golf, rhythm is everything. On 17, another chance, wasted. He stuck the approach but left the putt short. Nerves have a funny way of stealing inches when you need feet. Meanwhile, Keegan Bradle was walking like a man with nothing to fear. Fairways, greens, focus, repeat. He wasn't dazzling anyone, he was outlasting them. This wasn't highlight golf, this was pressure golf. And then came the 18th. The theater, the wait, the silence before contact. Both players were now locked in a dead heat. The final hole wasn't just a decider, it was a test of everything they'd carried to this point. Fleetwood still had the lead in reputation, but Bradle had the lead in nerve. One man needed to win, the other refused to lose. The stage was equal, but the energy wasn't. CT Insider called Fleetwood gutted after the round. AP News called it a stunner. And if you watch closely, you could see the cracks forming as early as hole 15. This wasn't a collapse. This was a slow leak. Confidence doesn't break. It seeps away. You don't lose all at once. You lose in moments. And for Fleetwood, those moments had already begun. The pressure didn't just cook him. It boiled slowly. And when it reached the surface, it exploded. This was the moment where legends are made. The final hole. The final swing, and one man standing in the shadows about to rewrite the story. Keegan Bradle stood on the 18th fairway, staring down the green like a man who had already seen how it ends. Fleetwood had blinked. Now Bradle had the spotlight. The ball was sitting clean. The wind had quieted. The gallery leaned in. There was no margin left. He needed perfection, and perfection showed up. He stepped into the ball like it owed him something. The contact was pure. No doubt, no shake, no fear. A crisp iron, tracing a line toward immortality. It landed just over the ridge, took one bounce, 2 rolls, and stopped pin high. No more than 14 feet from the cup. The crowd didn't roar. Not yet. It gasped. because everyone knew what came next. Bradley lined up the putt. You could see the weight in his shoulders, not as a burden, but like armor. He stood over the ball, paused, and then let it go. The ball started right. Then it held, then it curled, then it vanished. Silence collapsed into chaos. Fans exploded. The grandstands shook. The leaderboard flipped. Keegan Bradle, 15 under, alone at the top. One swing, and the golf world changed direction. This wasn't just a birdie. This was a takeover. No playoff, no doubt, just deliverance. CT Insider captured it perfectly. Bradley Birdie's final hole to win. AP News called it a stunner. They weren't exaggerating. You could hear the breath leave the course. You could hear the air shift. He didn't flinch. He didn't fade. He finished. And when the world expected safe, Keegan chose greatness. You can't script that kind of moment. You can only earn it. And Bradley earned every inch of that green. In that moment, it wasn't just about golf. It was about legacy, about fire, about guts. Because when everything was on the line, Keegan Bradle answered with silence, steel, and a swing heard around the world. The silence that followed Bradley's putt wasn't empty. It was heavy. Heavy with pressure, expectation, and something far worse. Opportunity slipping away. Tommy Fleetwood stood on the 18th tee, needing a birdie to tie. But after what Keegan had just done, it felt like a mountain had grown on that fairway. He hit the drive. It was good. But good wasn't going to cut it anymore. His approach landed safe. Too safe. Not heroic. Not close enough. As Fleetwood walked to the green, the difference was written all over him. Bradley had walked up with fire. Fleetwood trudged in with ghosts. The crowd knew it. He knew it. And maybe, just maybe, the ball knew it too. He stood over the putt, a chance to force a playoff, a chance to keep the story alive. And he missed it. Not by much. But in moments like this, a whisper is a scream. His head dropped, not in disappointment, but in heartbreak, because this wasn't just a missed putt. This was a missed chapter. "It hurts," he said later. That's all Fleetwood could give to CT Insider, and in those two words, you felt everything. The pressure, the buildup, the years of almost, the weight of never being the one holding the trophy. The Times didn't sugarcoat it. Fleetwood didn't just lose a tournament, he lost the fairy tale. This was supposed to be his redemption arc, his first PGA Tour win, his name finally etched where it belonged. Instead, it became another haunting Sunday, another photo where he's not in the middle, another runner-up speech that no one wants to give, another handshake that stings more than it soothes. Was this the moment he'll never get back? You don't get many chances like this, not with a one-shot lead, not this late, not with history waiting. While Keegan Bradle was writing himself into memory, Tommy Fleetwood was fading into what could have been. This wasn't a choke, it was a slow disappearance. And when the curtain finally fell, he wasn't the one standing center stage. This wasn't luck. This was legacy. Keegan Bradle has won the Travelers Championship before, but never like this. Never with the spotlight so sharp, never with the pressure so dense, and never with the final word that shook an entire leaderboard. This was his second win at TPC River Highlands, but it didn't feel like a repeat. It felt like a reinvention, because this time, he didn't just beat the field, he beat the story. He came into the week unmentioned, unpicked, unhyped, and left as the man everyone was talking about. But more than the trophy, more than the headlines, what Bradley gained on that 18th green was momentum, and maybe something even more valuable, respect. The FedEx Cup race just changed. Bradley vaults into the top 10, suddenly a dark horse no one's laughing at. The Ryder Cup buzz is real now. Europe's going to remember this version of Keegan, the version that doesn't flinch. He didn't just win. He sent a message to every captain, every analyst, every player who counted him out. This wasn't a fluke. This was a shift. The fire isn't new. It's finally found direction. Is this the start of something bigger? Can he finally shake off the emotional wildcard label that's trailed him for years? You felt it on Sunday, the look in his eye, the weight in that putt. This wasn't survival. It was arrival. The narrative doesn't call him a favorite, but maybe it should start. If Keegan Bradle keeps this form, he's not chasing legacies. He's building one. Do you think he just proved he belongs with the elite? Or was this a single spark in a fading fire? Does this Travelers win rewrite his story, or just add a brilliant chapter? Is this the beginning of a comeback, or the end of the resistance? Golf may have just witnessed a turning point, not for the sport, for the man who won it. This wasn't the end of a tournament. It might have been the start of a redemption arc golf didn't know it needed.